The NFL has produced legends, but some players traded cleats for handcuffs. From Aaron Hernandez shooting a man in cold blood.
Charging the defendant, Aaron Hernandez, with murder. What say you, Madam Foreperson? Is the defendant not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, or guilty of murder in the second degree?
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
To Robert Rozier racking up a body count for a cult, and Anthony Wayne Smith's brutal torture murders that earned him 3 life sentences. These are the most horrific crimes ever committed by former NFL stars. Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez's story is perhaps the most shocking transformation from NFL stardom to convicted murderer in the league's history. The former New England Patriots tight end went from catching passes from Tom Brady to spending his final years behind bars, ultimately taking his own life in a prison cell. Hernandez was convicted in 2015 of murdering Odin Lloyd, a semi-professional football player, in 2013. The crime took place in an industrial park near Hernandez's home in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, where Lloyd was found shot multiple times with a .45 caliber handgun. The relationship between Hernandez and Lloyd was complex and personal. Lloyd was dating the sister of Hernandez's fiancée, Shiana Jenkins, making this not just a cold-blooded murder, but a betrayal of family trust. The motive remains one of the most puzzling aspects of the case, with theories ranging from Lloyd's knowledge of other crimes to concerns about Hernandez's private life. The evidence against Hernandez was overwhelming and methodical. Surveillance footage showed Hernandez in a rented Nissan Altima picking up Lloyd around 2:32 a.m. on June 17th, driving to the industrial park and returning to his home after the murder. Perhaps most damning was Hernandez's DNA found at the crime scene, notably on a piece of Publicious gum stuck to a shell casing, matching gum he purchased. The Patriots released Hernandez just 90 minutes after his arrest, demonstrating how quickly an NFL career can evaporate when faced with such serious charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, but his story didn't end there.
Charging the defendant, Aaron Hernandez, with murder. What say you, Madam Foreperson? Is the defendant not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, or guilty of murder in the second degree?
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
Hernandez was also charged with other murders, including the 2012 Boston double homicide of Daniel De Abreu and Safiro Furtado, though he was acquitted of those charges. The tragedy reached its ultimate conclusion when Hernandez committed suicide in 2017 while incarcerated. The posthumous discovery of severe chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, in Hernandez's brain added another layer of complexity to an already tragic story, raising questions about the long-term effects of football-related head injuries on behavior and decision-making. Up next is Anthony Wayne Smith, whose crimes represent some of the most brutal and calculated murders ever committed by a former NFL player. Anthony Wayne Smith, the defensive end who once terrorized quarterbacks for the Oakland Los Angeles Raiders, would later terrorize innocent civilians in a series of horrific killings that shocked even seasoned law enforcement officers. Smith was convicted in 2015 of murdering 3 men between 1999 and 2001. The victims, Kevin and Ricky Nettles and Dennis Henderson, were kidnapped, tortured, and killed in acts of unimaginable cruelty that revealed a dark transformation from professional athlete to cold-blooded killer. The Nettles brothers' murders on November 10, 1999, were particularly heinous. Smith, allegedly posing as a police officer, kidnapped the brothers from their car wash business. The torture they endured was so severe that Ricky showed U-shaped branding burns on his cheeks, abdomen, and feet, indicating a level of sadism that defies comprehension. Dennis Henderson's murder on June 24, 2001 was equally brutal. Henderson was kidnapped, beaten, stabbed over 40 times, and had his throat slashed. His body was discovered in a rental car, another victim of Smith's descent into murderous violence. The evidence linking Smith to these crimes was methodical and damning. Zip ties found on the victims matched those in Smith's possession, and rope at the crime scene was similar to rope found with Smith. Perhaps most importantly, 2 witnesses identified Smith as the perpetrator. The investigation also revealed disturbing aspects of Smith's post-NFL life. Police searches uncovered weapons, fake IDs, including one for Anthony Smith, intelligence officer, and books like Kill Without Joy and Make 'Em Pay, ultimate revenge techniques from the master trickster, suggesting a man who had been planning and fantasizing about violence. Smith was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without parole, ensuring he will never again have the opportunity to harm innocent people. His crimes occurred after his NFL career ended in 1998, but they remain among the most shocking examples of how a former professional athlete can descend into unthinkable violence. The next case reads like a Hollywood thriller, complete with millionaire victims, secret affairs, and a murder plot spanning 15 years before justice was finally served. Naposki. The former New England Patriots and Indianapolis Colts linebacker became entangled in a web of greed and deception that would ultimately cost a man his life and send Naposki to prison for the rest of his days. Naposki was convicted in 2011 of murdering millionaire William McLaughlin in 1994. The crime was orchestrated in collaboration with Nanette Johnston, McLaughlin's live-in girlfriend and Naposki's secret lover, who stood to collect a $1 million life insurance policy. The case gained renewed attention when Naposki spoke from prison, as shown in this compelling footage.
I am exposing myself, I'm exposing my family, I am exposing my children to harm. There's a murderer walking on the street.
The murder itself was cold and calculating. On December 15, 1994, McLaughlin was found dead in his Newport Beach home with 6 gunshot wounds from a 9mm handgun. Johnston provided Naposki with a key to the home and informed him of McLaughlin's schedule, making her an essential accomplice in the premeditated killing. What makes this case particularly chilling is the financial motive and the careful planning involved. The day before the murder, Johnston wrote a $250,000 check from McLaughlin's account and deposited it into her own, clearly indicating premeditation. The couple wasn't just planning to kill McLaughlin, they were already spending his money. The case went cold for 15 years due to a lack of direct physical evidence. No DNA, fingerprints, or murder weapon directly linked Naposki to the crime scene initially. However, advances in forensic technology and renewed witness interviews eventually led to the case being reopened in 2007. The breakthrough came when investigators retraced Naposki's movements, debunking his alibi that he was at a Denny's in Santa Ana during the murder. Evidence also emerged about Johnston's financial misconduct, including her 1996 guilty plea for stealing nearly $500,000 from McLaughlin's accounts. On July 14, 2011, Naposki was convicted of first-degree murder with special circumstances, murder for financial gain, and personally discharging a firearm. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole on August 10, 2012, while Johnston received the same sentence following her conviction in January 2012. The next story is a chilling reminder of how extremist ideologies can corrupt and destroy lives, turning a promising athlete into a murderous zealot. Robert Rozier. Robert Rozier's transformation from NFL defensive end to serial killer for a black supremacist cult represents one of the most bizarre and disturbing cases in the intersection of sports and crime. Rozier played briefly for the St. Louis Cardinals in 1979 before his life took a dramatically different path. After struggling with petty crimes and drug allegations that ended his football career, Rozier found himself drawn to the Nation of Yahweh, a dangerous cult led by Yahweh ben Yahweh. The Nation of Yahweh promoted a violent black supremacist ideology that viewed white people as infidels or white devils. In 1985, Rozier joined the cult's secret group, the Brotherhood, also known as the Death Angels, which required members to murder a white person and present a body part, often an ear, as proof of loyalty. Rozier confessed to 4 murders and was implicated in others, with sources varying on whether he admitted to 6 or 7 killings. His crimes included a double murder in Coconut Grove, Miami in April 1986, where he killed 2 white men in an apartment using a 12-inch Japanese knife as part of his initiation into the Brotherhood. One of the most horrific details of Rozier's crimes involved the murder of Raymond Kelly on September 5, 1986, where Rozier killed Kelly and cut off his ears as a trophy to present to Yahweh ben Yahweh per cult instructions. The cult's influence over Rozier was absolute and terrifying. On September 20th, 1986, he stabbed Cecil Branch 25 times in retaliation for opposing the cult. Just over a month later, during eviction efforts on October 31st, 1986, Rozier shot Anthony Brown and Rudolph Broussard to death. Rozier's cooperation with authorities proved crucial in dismantling the cult. He pleaded guilty to 4 murders and turned state's evidence against Yahweh ben Yahweh and 15 cult members, leading to a 14-murder conspiracy indictment in 1990. His testimony was critical but controversial. As defense attorneys argued, he fabricated details to avoid a life sentence or death penalty. Rozier received a 22-year sentence in 1986, reduced due to his cooperation, and was paroled in 1996 after serving 10 years. He entered witness protection as Robert Ramos's, but his freedom was short-lived. In 1999, Rozier was arrested for writing 27 bounce checks totaling $2,200. On January 12, 2001, he was sentenced to 25 years to life under California's 3 strikes law due to his prior criminal history. As of 2025, he remains incarcerated at Mule Creek State Prison, having been denied parole in February 2022 and January 2025, with his next parole hearing scheduled for January 2028. The next entry is about a tragic descent into depression and substance abuse that culminated in an act of horrific violence. Tommy Kane. Kane, born in Montreal, had achieved what many only dream of, a successful NFL career spanning 5 seasons with the Seattle Seahawks from 1988 to 1992. He appeared in 57 games, recording 142 receptions for 2,034 yards and 9 touchdowns. After his NFL career ended due to injuries, he briefly played for the Toronto Argonauts before retiring and returning to Montreal, where he volunteered at youth football camps and seemed committed to giving back to his community. However, beneath the surface, Kane was struggling with significant personal demons. His separation from Tamara Sheikh, the mother of their 4 children, combined with his battles against depression and substance abuse, created a volatile and dangerous situation that would soon explode into unthinkable violence. On November 30th, 2003, Kane committed a horrific act at his mother's home in LaSalle, Quebec, where he severely beat and stabbed his estranged wife, Tamara Sheikh, aged 35. The tragedy was made even more poignant by the circumstances. Sheikh had arrived at the home with a church counselor, intending to escort Kane to a detox center to address his substance abuse issues. Instead of finding help, she found death. The attack was described as a fit of rage by the Parole Board of Canada, highlighting the emotional volatility that characterized this domestic violence incident. Sheikh died in the arms of the church counselor, who had tried to help both her and Kane, a detail that adds to the profound sadness of this case. Kane was initially charged with second-degree murder, but in September 2004, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter as part of a controversial plea bargain with the Crown. Prosecutors considered psychiatric reports citing Kane's depression, which influenced the decision to reduce the charge. The plea bargain sparked outrage and protests in Montreal, with critics arguing it was too lenient given the brutality of the crime. On November 5, 2004, Superior Court Justice Fraser Martin sentenced Kane to 18 years in prison. In a 30-minute preface, Martin described the killing as a senseless act by a manipulative and narcissistic estranged husband, emphasizing the devastating impact on Sheikh's family. He noted, "By your act, Mr. Kane, 4 children are deprived of their mother." The aftermath continued to impact the family for years. In 2010, Quebec Judge Clement Gascon ordered Kane to pay $590,000 in damages to Sheikh's family, including $125,000 for each of Kane and Sheikh's 4 children and $90,000 for Sheikh's sister Ava Sheikh, who gained legal custody of the children. Kane's troubles didn't end with his sentencing. In late May 2019, he violated his parole conditions by refusing a urine test and later admitting to cocaine use. The violation came after several stressful events, including testing for the NFL's concussion settlement program and seeing his children for the first time in years, leading to his relapse and temporary return to custody. Up next is Ray Carruth, whose case represents one of the most calculated and cold-blooded crimes in NFL history, the conspiracy to murder his pregnant girlfriend to avoid child support payments. Ray Carruth. The former Carolina Panthers wide receiver's actions not only ended a young woman's life, but left their son with permanent disabilities, creating a legacy of tragedy that continues to this day. Carruth was a promising rookie when his world came crashing down. Selected 27th overall by the Carolina Panthers in the 1997 NFL Draft, he signed a 4-year, $3.7 million contract and initially showed great promise, leading all NFL rookie receivers in receptions and yards during his first season. However, by 1999, Carruth's life was unraveling. Injuries had diminished his performance, and financial pressures mounted due to child support obligations, exceeding $3,000 monthly after losing a paternity suit in 1997. When his girlfriend, Charissa Adams, became pregnant with his second child and refused to abort the pregnancy, prosecutors argued this became the motive for murder. On November 16, 1999, approximately 12:30 a.m., Charissa Adams was shot 4 times with a .38 special revolver in a middle-class suburban neighborhood in South Charlotte, North Carolina. The method was particularly cruel. Adams was driving her BMW following Carruth's vehicle when he slowed down to block her path, allowing a second car to pull alongside and open fire. The trial featured devastating evidence, including Adams' own 911 call.
911, Baker, you need police, fire, or medic?
Police, I've been shot. I'm 8 months pregnant.
Okay, ma'am, you're 8 months pregnant, you've been shot, you're at Wessex Square.
In that haunting 911 call, Adams identified her attacker.
All right, what's his name?
Like he played for the Panthers.
The evidence against Carruth was overwhelming. Adams' 12-minute 911 call included her statement, "I was following my baby's daddy, Ray Carruth, the football player. He slowed down, and a car pulled up beside me." She also wrote handwritten hospital notes further implicating Carruth before falling into a coma. Adams died on December 14, 1999, after 4 weeks in a coma. Chancellor Lee Adams was born via emergency C-section, but suffered permanent brain damage and cerebral palsy due to 70 minutes without oxygen. The boy survived, but his life would be forever marked by the violence that claimed his mother. Carruth's behavior after the shooting revealed his guilt. Although he posted a $3 million bail after Adams' death, he fled to West Tennessee, where FBI agents found him on December 15, 1999, hiding in the trunk of a friend's car at a Best Western hotel parking lot. He was carrying $3,900 in cash, bottles of urine, extra clothes, candy bars, and a cell phone, clearly indicating an attempt to evade capture. On January 23, 2001, Carruth was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, shooting into an occupied vehicle, and using an instrument to destroy an unborn child. He was acquitted of first-degree murder, sparing him from execution. He was sentenced to 18 years, 11 months to 24 years, 4 months in prison. Carruth was released on October 22, 2018, from Sampson Correctional Institution in Clinton, North Carolina. He now lives in the southwestern United States under a different name, maintaining a low profile. Meanwhile, Chancellor Lee Adams, now approaching 25, lives with his grandmother, Sandra Adams, in Charlotte, described as a miracle child, despite his permanent disabilities. The next case represents one of the most recent and brutal crimes committed by a former NFL player, serving as a stark reminder that the league's problems with violent behavior persist into the modern era. Kevin Ware Jr., the former tight end's murder of his girlfriend, Taylor Pomaski, in 2021 shocked the football community and highlighted ongoing issues with domestic violence. Ware played as a tight end for the Washington Redskins in 2003 and the San Francisco 49ers in 2004, with a brief NFL career spanning just 16 games total. He recorded 4 receptions for 26 yards with the Redskins and had a brief stint with the Oakland Raiders in 2005 before being waived. What makes Ware's case particularly disturbing is both the brutality of the crime and his extensive criminal history leading up to it. His criminal record began during college in 2002 when he pleaded guilty to misdemeanor assault at the University of Washington. Pattern continued after his NFL career ended, with increasingly serious charges. In 2010, Ware was charged with theft and evading arrest after an assault in Houston. In December 2018, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison for intent to manufacture or deliver a controlled substance. The events leading to murder began on April 19, 2021, when Ware was arrested in Magnolia, Texas, for speeding at 115 miles per hour. During the traffic stop, authorities found cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana, a Xanax pill, a loaded AK-47, and a loaded 9mm pistol in his car. He was released after posting a $23,000 bond. Just days later, on April 25, 2021, tragedy struck. Taylor Pomaski, Ware's 29-year-old girlfriend, was last seen at a party at her home in Spring, Texas. The search for Pomaski lasted months before the horrific truth was revealed. Her remains were found in December 2021 in a ditch in North Harris County and identified in April 2022. The autopsy revealed the extreme brutality of her death. She was cut with a knife, hit with a blunt object, strangled, and her body was burned. Ware was indicted on July 28, 2022 for murder and tampering with evidence, while already in jail for the unrelated drug and gun charges from April 2021. The evidence of tampering was particularly disturbing, as it involved the burning of Pomaski's body in an apparent attempt to destroy evidence. Rather than face trial, Ware pleaded guilty on May 7, 2025, ahead of jury selection, accepting a 30-year sentence. He also received a concurrent 15-year sentence for the drug and weapons charges he pleaded guilty to on December 12, 2022. The case deeply affected Pomaski's family, who endured months of uncertainty before her remains were found and identified. The prolonged anguish and brutal discovery likely had a profound emotional impact, highlighting the devastating toll of domestic violence on victims' families. The next case stands as one of the most shocking examples of how a former NFL player's life can spiral into unthinkable violence. Keith Wright. The defensive tackle's brief and unremarkable professional career was overshadowed by a series of home invasion robberies in 2011 that included sexual assault, kidnapping, and armed robbery, earning him what amounts to a life sentence behind bars. Wright graduated high school at age 17 and attended Arizona Western College before transferring to Sacramento City College in 1999, where he recorded 14 sacks in one season. At the University of Missouri, he excelled as a defensive lineman, recording 68 tackles in his first season and 92 tackles in 2002, leading to expectations of being drafted in the 3rd or 4th round. Wright was selected by the Houston Texans in the 6th round, 214th overall, of the 2003 NFL Draft, signing a 3-year contract worth $925,000. However, his NFL career was brief and forgettable. He saw limited playing time with the Texans before bouncing between practice squads for the Indianapolis Colts, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Arizona Cardinals, and Detroit Lions before his career ended in 2006. After leaving the NFL, little is documented about Wright's life until his arrest in 2011. His transition from professional sports to criminal activity suggests significant challenges in adjusting to post-athletic life, though no specific details about his personal circumstances or motivations have been made public. Wright's crimes were as brutal as they were calculated. He committed 3 home invasion robberies in the Naposki neighborhood of Sacramento, California in 2011, each incident escalating in violence and demonstrating a complete disregard for human dignity. The first attack occurred on July 21, 2011, when Wright entered a home, threatened victims with a firearm, and demanded money and property. This initial crime established a pattern that would only grow more violent with each subsequent attack. The second incident on August 8, 2011, saw Wright conduct another home invasion, again using a firearm to intimidate victims and steal valuables. He was linked to this crime through the exchange of rare foreign currency at a currency exchange business, a detail that would later prove crucial in connecting him to the robberies. The most horrific incident occurred on August 21, 2011, when Wright's violence reached unconscionable levels. In addition to robbing the home, he sexually assaulted a female victim and kidnapped her, forcing her to drive to 2 different banks to withdraw money. This incident included the charge of forcible oral copulation, demonstrating the extreme and traumatic nature of his crimes. The evidence against Wright was overwhelming and methodical. DNA evidence linked him to the August 21st robbery and sexual assault. Perhaps even more damning, property from the victims was found during a search of Wright's home, directly tying him to the robberies. The foreign currency exchange further cemented the case against him. Wright was arrested on August 29, 2011, on suspicion of home invasion and sexual assault. In October 2012, he was convicted by a Sacramento County Superior Court jury of 19 felony charges, including forcible oral copulation, armed robbery, kidnapping, first-degree burglary, and false imprisonment. The sentencing reflected the severity and number of his crimes. On November 30, 2012, Sacramento County Superior Court Judge Michael Savage sentenced Wright to 114 years to life in prison, plus an additional 120 years and 8 months, totaling 234 years and 8 months. This sentence, effectively ensuring Wright will never be released, reflects both the gravity of his offenses and the court's determination to protect society from further harm. The impact on Wright's victims, particularly the woman who endured sexual assault and kidnapping, cannot be overstated. The trauma of being threatened with a firearm, robbed, and subjected to sexual violence, followed by being forced to withdraw money from ATMs while in fear for her life, likely caused profound and lasting psychological harm that extends far beyond the physical aspects of the crimes. The next case's fall from NFL cornerback to convicted felon represents one of the most dramatic descents in professional sports history. Daryl Henley. The former Los Angeles Rams player didn't just commit one serious crime. He compounded his legal troubles by attempting to murder the very people who were holding him accountable for his actions, transforming him from a drug trafficker into a would-be killer. Henley was a consensus All-American at UCLA, graduating with a 3.3 GPA in finance, demonstrating both athletic and academic excellence. Selected by the Los Angeles Rams in the second round, 53rd overall, of the 1989 NFL Draft, he played from 1989 to 1994, appearing in 76 games and recording 12 interceptions. His peak performance came between 1991 to 1993, when he was earning a $600,000 salary and seemed to have a bright future ahead of him. However, Henley's association with questionable individuals through late-night socializing led him down a dangerous path. In July 1993, his girlfriend, Michelle Donahoe, a former Rams cheerleader, was arrested at an Atlanta airport carrying 25 pounds of cocaine. This arrest would prove to be the beginning of Henley's downfall. Donahoe pleaded guilty to conspiracy to transport cocaine and testified against Henley, implicating him as a key figure in the operation. The evidence revealed that Henley was not merely a peripheral figure, but was actively involved in organizing and profiting from the trafficking operation that moved significant quantities of cocaine across state lines. In March 1995, a federal jury convicted Henley and 4 co-defendants of drug conspiracy and possession charges. Henley was initially sentenced to 20 years in prison for the drug charges, a significant penalty that reflected both the scale of the operation and his leadership role within it. But Henley's story took an even darker turn while he was awaiting sentencing. Rather than accepting responsibility for his actions, he chose to escalate his criminal behavior in the most shocking way possible. While detained in a Los Angeles jail, Henley orchestrated a plot to murder Judge Gary L. Taylor, who presided over his trial, and Michelle Donahoe, the key witness whose testimony led to his conviction. The murder plot was not a moment of rage, but a calculated attempt to eliminate those responsible for his legal consequences and potentially intimidate others involved in the judicial process. Henley hired contract killers to carry out the murders, demonstrating a level of premeditation and willingness to commit violence that shocked even experienced law enforcement officials. Fortunately, authorities uncovered the plot before any harm could come to the intended victims. Henley was charged with conspiracy to commit murder for attempting to hire professional killers, adding an entirely new dimension to his criminal case. Henley pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder, avoiding a trial for the murder plot charges. On March 11, 1997, Judge James M. Eideman sentenced Henley to a total of 41 years and 3 months in prison, combining 20 years for the drug charges and an additional 21 years and 3 months for the murder conspiracy. Judge Eideman's words during sentencing were particularly striking. He described Henley as a hardened criminal and recommended placement in a maximum security facility in Marion, Illinois, where inmates are confined for 23 hours a day, citing his increased danger while in custody. Assistant U.S. Attorney Mark S. Harris called the 41-year sentence harsh, but fitting, given the gravity of plotting to kill a federal judge and a witness. As of July 2025, Henley remains incarcerated at a federal prison, likely the U.S. Penitentiary in Marion, Illinois, and is expected to remain in custody until at least 2037, when he would be 71 years old. Despite some advocacy for sentence commutation based on mandatory minimum sentencing concerns, no successful appeals have been reported. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.